as you probably know, had an interview we aired this past Monday with Tim Hallman, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, about the new process for streamlining regulations toward mining opportunities in Nova Scotia. And all through the interview, I kept thinking, why aren't I talking to Tory Rushton? This would be his department, Natural Resources. And then it hit me. It's because this is a kind of safeguard situation. The Minister of Environment and Climate Change is setting the regulations in terms of meeting the approval of his department over your department. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. As a regulator, they have to set the stage for goals and goalposts, and when we've heard loud and clear for many years in Nova Scotia, but we've heard loud and clear since we've been government that people coming in for industrial assessment, whether it's mining or an industrial site or even an affordable housing complex, we've heard many times that sometimes red tape gets in the way. And when red tape gets in the way, sometimes the regulator moves goalposts and may not necessarily put everything at the forefront. But with the amalgamated efforts, I guess, with what Minister Hallman's done with the industrial assessment, with the mining per se, the metals needed for our renewable energy sources, is spearheading a process to align part of the industrial assessment. It's not easing it up, actually. It's just making the goalposts set in the field, if you will, so the companies know exactly what they're shooting for, and allowing things to happen at the same time as other things. In a previous setting, you needed to do one step before you could do the other. And we heard from industry that a different requirement at the federal level that you could actually do things hand in hand. So it's really streamlining things to be more focused at a process where the industry has to meet the environmental standards, but also has the ability to meet the goalposts that aren't constantly being moved.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that the opposition parties, the political parties in opposition to you, have been commenting fairly extensively about the need for public consultation before you talk to the mining companies, before you open the door to conversation, before you streamline the process and so on. And there's certain media outlets I see in the social media that really picking on you, picking on Premier Houston, suggesting that, you really couldn't care less, you're strong-handing and just a bull in a china shop and so on. And I'm sitting back thinking, am I missing something here? And the reason I say that is because in the conversation with Minister Hallman, in conversations with you, and in conversations with the Premier, what I'm hearing you say is that you're streamlining the process. You're not making it easier to get approval. You're just making it easier to apply. And everybody else is assuming the worst, that you're giving an open ticket to mining companies to come to Nova Scotia and rip through our province willy-nilly. Am I crazy here? I mean, I'm listening to you say, let's get rid of some of the red tape, make it a little easier for them to propose something, not something making it easier for them to get. But
exactly.
Well, am I the only one?
No, exactly, Bill. You're hitting the nail on the head. The environmental requirements have not changed. The industrial requirements have not changed. It's just a streamlined process where people and companies and investors can do things hand in hand versus waiting till one checkbox done and move on to the next. And this is what's being asked for decades. To be very honest. But I know you don't have the chance right now, but if you had the chance, go back to the Public Accounts Committee meeting a few weeks ago where the Liberal member actually agreed with what we were doing and said, yeah, we tried to do that. Previous minister or previous premier, Ian Rankin, had said, we were trying to do this process, so this makes sense. And then when the cameras turned on and the interviews happened in the media, the sort of tone changed. There should be consultation, and as we've talked many times, there's consultation with at different levels, but proper consultation with anything to do with an industrial setting or industrial permit that Minister Hallman has alluded to in the recent weeks. Consultation still has to take place. It takes place on a project by project basis, and we're not taking that away at all. Actually, It gives an opportunity to talk about a consultation at a broader aspect when you're coming to the table and able to talk about the whole project and not just specific checkboxes or items in a project. So it'll streamline the process, but it'll also streamline part of the public consultation as well, Bill.
Well, it seems to me you added the length of time to allow for public consultation. What used to be that the companies and the process gave 30 days for the public to have its say. And I think you've extended that to 40 days in the process, have you not?
So yeah, you're talking about Minister Hallman's piece of regulation. I don't have that document right in front of me to say the exact dates, but yeah, it has been extended.
So the public gets its chance to talk, and yet I keep hearing the media, other media, in social media, talking about the fact that it's like you're palsy-walsy with these companies, and you want to just kick the door open and say, come on in. And I know that, if there's some wealth to be had, if there's something that can benefit Nova Scotia to be had, that you want to welcome that. But you've said time and time again that they still have to meet our environmental standards, that they can't come in and run roughshod. They can't come in and do like they used to do, which was come in and rip away at the surface of Nova Scotia to get at whatever the wealth was as quickly and easily as possible. And then when they had their fill, walk away and leave the mess behind. And you've changed all that. And to me, that's good news. Now, I know there's somebody out there, probably somebody politically, who's going to say, well, listen to Bill now. You're just patting Tory Rushton on the back. I think you know, and if you don't, let me say it very, very clearly right here, right now, that I'm giving you the latitude to tell us what you're doing. We don't necessarily have to agree, but you can tell us what you're doing. And if you abuse it, sir, I will be on you like a fly on stink. You can count on it. But
I wouldn't expect anything else, Bill. I wouldn't expect anything else.
And that's just the way it is. But when we have an interview and you say, here's the process, and we want to make the process a little less prickly, that it doesn't change the requirements of the process. It just changes, well, I guess the way you have to file. I mean, some of what he said, for example, I think is happening right across government, is that you're changing the language of agreements and documents and so on to become what's sometimes called plain language documents. In other words, stopping the lawyers from writing these things so that we can't understand them, and somebody else, perhaps with a little understanding of grammar and literature, can make the documents so that we can understand them. That's not giving license to a company. That's just making it easier for all of us, I guess. But again, fair warning, if you say something that turns out not to be true, I'm going to be all over you. You know that.
Yeah, I know that, Bill. And we've heard many times in government, the red tape needs to change. So that this is part of that process to change the red tape. We've also heard in other aspects is people that are reputable companies, reputable investors that want to come here, meet our environmental standards. They need to know what the goalposts are to set in motion. And oftentimes, many projects require different levels of permitting, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal. Why should any investor coming to Nova Scotia to create economic benefit, to create jobs, to bring a better GDP for our province? Why should they have to do the same study 3 different times for 3 different levels of provinces, or 3 different levels of government? That they should need to do the study once, Bill. And we see other provinces that are aligning with exactly what we're doing and saying, look, we need to work with the companies rather than be a roadblock. If the companies want to come to our province and our country and be a well-maintained company, meet our standards, meet our labor standards, and be ethical, then we can actually sit down and have these conversations and set the goalpost to move things forward. I mentioned the GDP, and I don't know whether the Premier's talked to you about this, but when we're sitting back and looking and comparing North America, and I'm just talking about North American states and provinces, 60 out of 60, we're number 60 in our GDP, and we have an opportunity that's before us with renewable energy, with critical minerals that quite frankly that our country are looking for. then we should be having those discussions on how to grow our GDP, how to get those people. Our biggest export for years were people. And we train them and we export them somewhere else in our country and the world with their expertise. And now we're seeing people that actually are coming back to Nova Scotia with that technical training and want to make Nova Scotia not just a place to work, but a career and a place to grow their family. And with that, hand in hand, we'll be able to grow our GDP as well and be able to afford the things that every level of government has different grant programs for the local community hall or the road projects or our healthcare. These all take investments, and we're trying to look at every option. And when things, you've heard the Premier say, when things are not going to work, when things are not going to be safe, we won't be doing it.
And remember, like a fly on stink, I'll be all over you. Now, you talk about red tape, and we all understand that. That's plain language. And we're hearing the new Prime Minister Carney talk about red tape and getting rid of or removing, eliminating as much as possible. Talking about major projects because of the situation in the world, the economy, the sudden turn-off of our exports to the U.S. and so on, having to come up with some new ways of doing business. And the biggest problem blocking that is red tape, entanglement of regulations and rules. And, like you said, you have to provide an environmental process to the provincial government. Well, look how long it took for the yacht club in Pugwash to get approval to dredge a little piece of land behind their floating docks, because they were dealing with oceans, fisheries and oceans and environment at the federal level. And they were, 3-4 years getting around to getting an approval to do what they're finally doing, thankfully. Just as an example of that, there used to be a lot of talk about red tape in really impinging on business, and the Atlantic, what was it called, the Atlantic Federation of Small Business or something like that, used to give out an annual report card on the Atlantic provinces in terms of what provinces had the worst of red tape. And every now and then you'd get a report card saying, Nova Scotia improved by one piddly little amount. We were dragging our feet on these things. A lot of rules and regulations in place. It seems very difficult to get provinces to remove rules and regulations that are already there. And that's what you're talking about, is just streamlining. And I applaud that. I mean, you can go today, Department of Health is a good example. They're really pushing us to go online to do services. Well, I defy you to get through their websites and their questionnaires, and worse, their telephone network to make an appointment or to change an appointment. It's almost impossible from a human perspective. And that's red tape. We all want red tape to be cut down, no question about it. So I applaud you on that.
Yeah, you use the example of healthcare, and something we did in our first mandate is if a patient needed paperwork done for insurance purposes or whatever, I'm just using insurance purposes as an example, that was tying up a physician. And when you accumulate all those physician hours doing the paperwork, and a lot of the times duplicate paperwork or paperwork that never gets utilized, it just gets filed away somewhere. We were able to reduce that red tape by thousands and thousands of hours. So the physicians were back at the front face of patients. And we did that in the first mandate, and we heard back from the physicians. We're not done yet. There's still more red tape to be cut. There's still more documents that are not needed when we fill out the 7-page sheet. It's just the front page that needs to be done. So we're looking at red tape, many other avenues as well. But you utilized healthcare, and I just want to give that as an example where red tape has been cut, and it's actually benefited the residents in Nova Scotia, because the physicians are now back in the rooms with the patients versus sitting at a desk to fill out a 7-page document that just was being filed away somewhere.
Now, let's just be clear in terms of the world of politics. There might be somebody listening to us talk about red tape and pointing the finger at the Liberal Party with its red color. If you go change it to blue tape, I won't be happy either.
We're not going to change the red or blue, I don't think. Let's just say tape.
Cut the tape right there.
Cut the tape. Cut the tape.
Speaking of cutting the tape, it's that time of year kind of opening up to summer, a little bit slow. We thought we were getting a head start, but it's slowed down again. And looking at the events and activities, I know graduation's a big one for you, and other community events taking place in, particularly for your purposes in Cumberland South. The what I sometimes call the rubber chicken circuit hasn't been really overly active lately. What's going on?
Yeah, no, the weather playing a part in that. The events are getting up and going, to be very honest, Bill, as well, my oldest boy, as I've said before, my oldest boy's graduating this year, so we've taken a little bit of time as family to do some different things. I know Sunday was Father's Day, but rather than going out and doing an event, the three kids and I actually went out and enjoyed about 3 hours of fishing together. But there's some events coming up this weekend. The Plein Air Festival in Parisbro. The awards are Saturday night, which I plan on attending, and something at the municipal level. The new Spring Hill Fire Hall. The official grand opening is Saturday as well, and we'll probably be attending that. But the graduation circuit is starting. I've been out and about seeing some of the graduates, and anyway, it's usually 5 graduations in Cumberland South, but I think everybody understands this year I'll be sitting in Oxford as Bailey walks across the stage, and couldn't be a prouder moment for Mom and I. But there's lots of other events, and as we come closer to July. July 1st is always a big event, a very busy day that we look forward to. But it gives me an opportunity as well, as most people know, the staff at the MLA office. We really try not to close the door too much, but also recognize that staff do need some time off during the summer too. And Karen has looked at it and going to be taking Fridays off rather than closing the office down for a complete week or something. Going to be taking some Fridays off over the period of July, the end of June, July, and August. So our regular office hours are going to be 9 till 4 p.m. Monday to Thursday, which is something we used to do a few years ago, and it gives staff a little bit of time off. And also, I said to Karen, it's lots of opportunity for events on Friday as well to partake in, but always a big time in Oxford on Fridays is a local your independent store does a barbecue and a fundraiser for a different organization each week, but lots of events going on, Bill.
You mentioned the new fire hall in Spring Hill grand opening this weekend, and of course that was a project that happened very quickly and a sign of cutting red tape. But that was a project that was making way for a space for the residence building for the community college. So we're getting the fire hall. When's the next shoe going to drop?
Yeah, actually, I don't want people to think that the fire hall was moving just because of the residence. The fire hall was sort of announced before the residence was taking shape or the location. It just happened that it worked out very well and to be adjacent to the NSCC Cumberland campus. So it's right beside the Spring Hill campus. But ironically, I actually had a meeting this morning, a virtual meeting this morning about the campus, and things are moving well. The RFP, I think it was, I don't want to say tender, I think it was an RFP to look for the available contractor has closed. We're looking to see that take shape shortly. The municipality still has a few things, and the fire department still have a few things to go to the Spring Hill, the old fire station, and it looks like the province will be we own the property now, but it looks like we'll be occupying the building and looking at demolition, hopefully sometime in July if everything times out right, with the design build contractor and some of the final details being spec'd out. And I know this is news to a lot of people that have been patiently waiting, but this is a great announcement for Cumberland County. This is going to allow students to come and reside and allow that the traditional student housing apartments in Spring Hill, that would allow those to become full-time apartments year-round versus just student housing. But it also gives an opportunity for NSCC to grow even more. And as we know, when NSCCs grow and become an opportunity for community to drive the population up, to drive more economic benefit, because these students come, they have to eat here, and I know a few students that are staying right here. They graduated this year and staying right here in Cumberland County. So it's a plus, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that residence come to completion.
Now, one last time, if I find out you're misleading us, I'll be all over you like fly on stink.
You know the residence is coming, Bill. It's just a matter of time of getting the contractor in place and the demolition of the old building down. And
I didn't mean that.
Move forward.
I didn't mean that. I was talking generally. Anybody that thinks I'm soft on you has to know right here, right now. If you mislead us, look out.
No, Bill, I think people know, like I said to you before, I get a good response about our interviews that you graciously share with other stations. But I get a good response. There's times where you do hold the feet to the fire, if you will, but next week's always a good week, another week, and we always manage to have the conversations and answer hard questions. But also, like this week, we have the ability to celebrate what's going on in our community for everyone.
Now, just a quick update, by the way. This might be of interest to you, but we want to take a look at the future of politics in Canada. The interchanging going on between, NDP and Liberals and Tories and back and forth. And, what's the future look like? And to that end, we're having a town hall meeting at the Hope Centre a week from Saturday. And Bill Casey and Murray Scott are our two special guests who have come through those political wars. And we're going to have a question and answer session open to the public right here, 7 o'clock a week from Saturday. You might want to reserve a seat yourself.
Unfortunately, Bill, I think we're actually having a graduation family barbecue for Bailey. So I meant to ask you that earlier when we were having a conversation. I hope that's going to be recorded and shared in some means or aspect, because I really think that would be a very good conversation to hear these two individuals. They certainly represented Cumberland County very well for us in the past, and still a lot of people look up to these individuals.
We're recording the whole thing for broadcast purposes, to be sure, and it's the first, I hope, of many open public meetings that will have what we call a town hall meeting, old-fashioned town hall meeting. And the problem is there's only 28 seats available. But again, it's not meant to be the whole community can come in. It's meant to be a representative audience of the community because question and answers from the people will become part of the dialogue with the politicians or with the guests we have for these special meetings. So maybe someday we'll have you in the hot seat.
Sounds great, Bill. Love to be there.